this short video capsule, we discussed about the impact of market power and how it can limit the efficiency of competitive markets. We will use the following example to illustrate the concepts of the unit. Eggleton is a small town with an active production of fresh eggs in sustainable farms. There are several sellers in Eggleton, with different unit cost of production, as shown in the table. They provide their products to customers in the town and its vicinity. The buyers are grouped in segments according to their willingness to pay, shown in the table below. We have ordered customer groups from highest to lowest willingness to pay to build the demand curve for fresh eggs. Similarly, the sellers are ordered based on their unit cost to create the supply curve. In a competitive market, equilibrium prices will be attained so that the total amount of demand equals the total supply. In this market, the equilibrium price can be between 30 and 33. We take the equilibrium price of 30 to calculate the total surplus of consumers, shown in the blue area. We also calculate the profits of sellers, shown in the red area. The total value created in this market, considering both consumers and sellers, is around 24,000. Sellers in Eggleton decide to form a cooperative. Because they now decide production as a group, they realize that selling more eggs requires lowering prices, which affects their revenues. They calculate the marginal revenue of the incremental units produced. Pause and think. What would be the quantity and price that maximizes cooperative's profits? You can pause the video to make the calculations. When the cooperative decides production jointly, they don't see prices as a given. They realize that increasing production requires lowering prices. Hence, the marginal revenue perceived from additional units produced is lower than the price. Prices are reduced for all the units that were sold at a higher price. Production up to 624 units generates marginal revenue which is above their unit production costs, thereby increasing profits. But production beyond 624 have a marginal revenue which is below the unit cost, thereby reducing profits. The optimal production to maximize profits is 624 units, choosing a price of 42.6. We can calculate customer surplus and the cooperative profits. We see that the total value created is around 22. Pause and think. How is the total value generated in this market when suppliers coordinate their production relative to the case when suppliers compete? You can pause the video to answer the question. Total value under competition was estimated in about 24,000 versus 22,000 under cooperative. The difference comes from those customers and suppliers that were able to trade under competition, but now cannot trade given the cooperative's decision to cap production. The gray area represents this loss of value, often called the deadweight loss, which in this example is estimated around 2,000. The cooperative is acting as a monopoly, restricting production to 624 units. This is in order to maximize the joint profits of the cooperative. If suppliers could sell independently, sellers Y and P would trade with buyers H, L, and O. These trades would generate value because the willingness to pay is larger than the unit cost of producing them. In the course, we have studied how competitive markets can reach efficient allocations under ideal conditions. One of these conditions is that the firms can act independently, competing with each other. But the ideal conditions of competitive markets are often not achieved in practice, which can lead markets to decrease its efficiency, and in some cases, fail entirely. What we have covered so far are two extremes on how markets work in practice: monopoly markets with no competition whatsoever, and perfect competition, where suppliers do not account for the impact of their production on prices. Later in the course, we study market conditions that lie in between these two extremes.